Hi everyone, welcome to day 13 or part 13 of our Read Aloud read along of J.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. And right now we are in the chapter called Riddles in the Dark. And if you're following along on the PDF, we're on page 137 of the PDF, about 3/4 of the way down the page. What have I got in my pocket? He said aloud. He was talking to himself, but Gollum thought it was a riddle, and he was frightfully upset. Not fair, not fair, he hissed. It isn't fair, my precious, is it, to ask it what it's got in its nasty little pocketses? Bilbo, seeing what had happened, and having nothing better to ask, stuck to his question. What have I got in my pocket? He said louder. Hissed Gollum. It must give us 3 guesses, my precious, 3 guesses. Very well, guess away, said Bilbo. Handses, said Gollum. Wrong, said Bilbo, who had luckily just taken his hand out again. Guess again. Said Gollum, more upset than ever. He thought of all the things he kept in his own pockets. Fish bones, goblins' teeth, wet shells, a bit of bat wing, a sharp stone to sharpen his fangs on, and other nasty things. He tried to think what other people kept in their pockets. A knife, he said at last. Wrong, said Bilbo, who had lost his some time ago. Last guess. Now Gollum was in a much worse state than when Bilbo had asked him the egg question. He hissed and spluttered and rocked himself backwards and forwards and slapped his feet on the floor and wriggled and squirmed, but he still did not dare to waste his last guess. Come on, said Bilbo, I'm waiting. He tried to sound bold and cheerful, but he did not feel at all sure of how the game was going to end, whether Gollum guessed right or not. Time's up, he said. String or nothing, shrieked Gollum, which was not quite fair, working in 2 guesses at once. Both wrong, cried Bilbo, very much relieved. And he jumped at once to his feet, put his back to the nearest wall, and held out his little sword. He knew, of course, that the riddle game was sacred and of immense antiquity, and even wicked creatures were afraid to cheat when they played at it. But he felt he could not trust this slimy thing to keep any promise at a pinch. Any excuse would do for him to slide out of it. And after all, that last question had not been a genuine riddle according to the ancient laws, which we all know. But at any rate, Gollum did not at once attack him. He could see the sword in Bilbo's hand. He sat still, shivering and whispering. At last, Bilbo could wait no longer. Well, he said, what of your promise? I want to go, and you must show me the way. Did we say so, precious? Show the nasty little baggins the way out? Yes, yes. But what has it got in its pocketses, eh? Not string, precious, but not nothing. Oh, no, Gollum. Never you mind, said Bilbo. A promise is a promise. Cross it is, impatient, precious, hissed Gollum. But it must wait, yes, it must. We can't go up into the tunnel so hasty. We must go and get some things first, yes, things to help us. Well, hurry up, said Bilbo, relieved to think of Gollum going away. He thought he was just making an excuse and did not mean to come back. What was Gollum talking about? What useful thing could he keep out on the dark lake? But he was wrong. Gollum did mean to come back. He was angry now and hungry. And he was a miserable, wicked creature, and already he had a plan. Not far away was his island, of which Bilbo knew nothing, and there in his hiding place he kept a few wretched oddments and one very beautiful thing. Very beautiful, very wonderful. He had a ring, a golden ring, a precious ring. My birthday presents, he whispered to himself, as he had often done in endless dark days. That's what we wants now. Yes, we wants it. He wanted it because it was a ring of power, and if you slipped that ring onto your finger, you were invisible. Only in the full sunlight could you be seen, and only by your shadow, and that would be shaky and faint. My birthday present! It came to me on my birthday, my precious. So he had always said to himself, but who knows how Gollum came by that present ages ago, in the old days when such rings were still at large in the world. Perhaps even the master who had ruled them could not have said. Gollum used to wear it at first till it tired him, and then he kept it in a pouch next to his skin till it galled him, and now, usually, he hid it in a hole in the rock on his island, and was always going back to look at it. And still, sometimes he put it on when he could not bear to be parted from it any longer, or when he was very, very hungry and tired of fish. Then he would creep along dark passages looking for stray goblins. He might even venture into places where the torches were lit and made his eyes blink and smart, for he would be safe. Oh yes, quite safe. No one would see him, no one would notice him, till he had his fingers on their throat. Only a few hours ago he had worn it and caught a small goblin imp. How it squeaked! He still had a bone or two left to gnaw, but he wanted something softer. Quite safe, yes, he whispered to himself. It won't see us, will it, my precious? No, it won't see us, and its nasty little sword will be useless. Yes, quite. This is what was in his wicked little mind as he slipped suddenly from Bilbo's side and flapped back to his boat and went off into the dark. Bilbo thought he had heard the last of him. Still he waited for a little while, for he had no idea how to find his way out alone. Suddenly he heard a screech. It sent a shiver down his back. Gollum was cursing and wailing away in the gloom, not very far off by the sound of it. He was on his island, scrabbling here and there, searching and seeking in vain. Where is it? Where is it? Bilbo heard him crying. Lost it is, my precious. Lost, lost. Cursus and crucius, my precious is lost. What's the matter? Bilbo called. What have you lost? It mustn't ask us, shrieked Gollum. Not its business. No, Gollum. It's lost, Gollum. Gollum, Gollum. Well, so am I, cried Bilbo, and I want to get unlost. And I won the game, and you promised. So come along. Come and let me out, and then go on with your looking. Utterly miserable as Gollum sounded, Bilbo could not find much pity in his heart, and he had a feeling that anything Gollum wanted so much could hardly be something good. Come along, he shouted. No, not yet, precious, Gollum answered. We must search for it. It's lost, Gollum. But you never guessed my last question, and you promised, said Bilbo. I never guessed, said Gollum. Then suddenly out of the gloom came a sharp hiss. What has it got in its pockets? Tell us that. It must tell us first. As far as Bilbo knew, there was no particular reason why he should not tell. Gollum's mind had jumped to a guess quicker than his. Naturally, for Gollum had brooded for ages on this one thing, and he was always afraid of it being stolen. But Bilbo was annoyed at the delay. After all, he had won the game pretty fairly, at a horrible risk. Answers were to be guessed, not given, he said. But it wasn't a fair question, said Gollum. Not a riddle, precious, no. Oh, well, if it's a matter of ordinary questions, Bilbo replied, then I asked one first. What have you lost? Tell me that. What has it got in its pockets? The sound came hissing louder and sharper, and as he looked towards it, to his alarm, Bilbo now saw two small points of light peering at him. As suspicion grew in Gollum's mind, the lights of his eyes burned with a pale flame. "What have you lost?" Bilbo persisted. But now the light in Gollum's eyes had become a green fire, and it was coming swiftly nearer. Gollum was in his boat again, paddling wildly back to the dark shore, and such a rage of loss and suspicion was in his heart that no sword had any more terror for him. Bilbo could not guess what had maddened the wretched creature, but he saw that all was up, and Gollum meant to murder him at any rate. Just in time he turned and ran blindly back up the dark passage down which he had come, keeping close to the wall and feeling it with his left hand. "What has it got in its pocketses?" He heard the hiss loud behind him, and the splash as Gollum leapt from his boat. "What have I wonder?" he said to himself, and as he panted and stumbled along. He put his left hand in his pocket. The ring felt very cold as it quietly slipped onto his groping forefinger. The hiss was close behind him. He turned now and saw Gollum's eyes like small green lamps coming up the slope. Terrified, he tried to run faster, but suddenly he struck his toes on a snag in the floor and fell flat with his little sword underneath him. In a moment Gollum was on him. But before Bilbo could do anything, recover his breath, pick himself up, or wave his sword, Gollum passed by, taking no notice of him, cursing and whispering as he ran. What could it mean? Gollum could see in the dark. Bilbo could see the lights of his eyes palely shining, even from behind. Painfully he got up, sheathed his sword, which was now glowing faintly again, and then very cautiously he followed. There seemed nothing else to do. It was no good crawling back down to Gollum's water. Perhaps, if he followed him, Gollum might lead him to some way of escape without meaning to. "Curse it! Curse it! Curse it!" hissed Gollum. "Curse the Baggins! It's gone! What has it got in its pocketses? Oh, we guess, my precious. He's found it. Yes, he must have. My birthday present." Bilbo pricked up his ears. He was at last beginning to guess himself. He hurried a little, getting as close as he dared behind Gollum, who was still going quickly, not looking back, but turning his head from side to side, as Bilbo could see from the faint glimmer on the walls. "My birthday present! Curse it! How did we lose it, my precious? Yes, that's it, when we came this way last. When we twisted that nasty young squeaker. That's it. Curse it. It slipped from us after all these ages and ages. It's gone. Gollum." Suddenly Gollum sat down and began to weep, a whistling and gurgling sound horrible to listen to. Bilbo halted and flattened himself against the tunnel wall. After a while Gollum stopped weeping and began to talk. He seemed to be having an argument with himself. "It's no good going back up there to search. No, we doesn't remember all the places we visited. And it's no use. The Baggins has got it in his pocketses. The nasty noser has found it, we says. We guesses, precious, only guesses. We can't know till we find the nasty creature and squeezes it. But I don't know what the present can... but it doesn't know what the present can do, does it? It'll just keep it in its pocketses. It doesn't know, and it can't go far. It's lost itself, the nasty nosy thing. It doesn't know the way out. It said so. It said so, yes, but it's tricksy. It doesn't know what it means. It doesn't say what it means. It won't say what it's got in its pocketses. It knows. It knows a way in. It must know a way out. Yes. It's off to the back door. To the back door, that's it. The goblinses will catch it then. It can't get out that way, precious. Sssss. Gollum. Goblinses. Yes, but if it's got the present, our precious present, then goblinses will get it, Gollum. They'll find it. They'll find out what it does. We shan't ever be safe again. Never. Gollum. One of the goblinses will put it on, and then no one will see him. He'll be there but not seen. Not even our clever eyes will notice him, and he'll come creepsy and tricksy and catch us. Gollum, Gollum. Then let's stop talking, precious, and make haste. If the Bagginses have gone that way, we must go quick and see. Go, not far now, make haste. With that, with a spring, Gollum got up and started shambling off at a great pace. Bilbo hurried after him, still cautiously, though his chief fear now was of tripping on another snag and falling with a noise. His head was in a whirl of hope and wonder. It seemed that the ring he had was a magic ring. It made you invisible. He had heard of such things, of course, in old tales, but it was hard to believe that he had really found one by accident. Still, there it was. Gollum with his bright eyes had passed him by only a yard to one side. On they went, Gollum flip-flopping ahead, hissing and cursing, Bilbo behind going as softly as a hobbit can. Soon they came to places where, as Bilbo had noticed on the way down, side passages opened this way and that. Gollum began at once to count them. 1 left, yes. 1 right, yes. 2 right, yes, yes. 2 left, yes, yes. And so on and on. As the count grew, he slowed down and he began to get shaky and weepy, for he was leaving the water further and further behind, and he was getting afraid. Goblins might be about, and he had lost his ring. At last he stopped by a low opening on their left as they went up. 7 right, yes. 6 left, yes, he whispered. This is it. This is the way to the back door, yes. Here's the passage. He peered in and then shrank back. But we dursn't go in, precious. No, we dursn't. Goblins is down there. Lots of goblins is. We smells them. What shall we do? Curse them and crush them. We must wait here, precious. Wait a bit and see. I'm going to stop right there. So possibly, sounds like Gollum may have accidentally led Bilbo Baggins to the back door of the Goblin Caverns. So hopefully I think we'll finish this chapter next time. Sorry for the long wait between parts. We'll have part 14 up this week for sure. And if you are reading along with us, make sure that you add to our character e-chart on the Google Classroom page, because we are trying to track the different character traits of our main characters. So I think we learned a little bit more about Bilbo Baggins in this chapter, which would be interesting to add to the e-chart. All right. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.